Hi, good morning, everybody. Just real quick, we're just waiting on a few more people to attend. But we'll start the meeting in a few minutes.
Can't hear.
Some welcome and introductions. Good morning, everybody. This is Meghan Sloan with MetroCOG. Thank you for everybody who attended, who's here at this morning's TTAC meeting. Hopefully, we still get a few more people coming in because we have a lot to discuss. But why don't we just start with going around our offices first, and then we can go around with our virtual attendees. So I'm Megan Sloan with MetroCog, and I'm the planning director here.
I'm Matthew Abbott. I'm with NPO Coordination Unit over at CTDOT.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Simone Lesher, Regional Planner at MetroCOG.
Patrick Carlton, Deputy Director, MetroCOG.
Joe Lombardi, CTDOT, Division of Traffic Engineering, Traffic Operations Unit.
Mark Hoover, I'm the GIS director at MetroCOG.
Stephanie Umbraldi, GIS analyst at MetroCOG.
Greg Palmer, DOT Traffic Engineering, Traffic Operations, Principal Engineer.
Okay, and I'll just go down the list. Bill? Bill Hurley, I think you're on mute.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Yeah. No, I had to look for the button. Sorry. Yeah. Bill Hurley, Town of Fairfield Engineering Department.
Sarah?
Sorry, I was on mute. Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah Roy, and I'm an outreach and engagement specialist with CT Rides. And I'm also a resident of Fairfield and very involved with transportation stuff in the area. Thanks.
Noah?
Hi, I'm Noah Miller, Regional Planner at MetroCOG.
Frank?
Hi, Frank Batiste, the Director of Public Works in Fairfield.
George?
George Estrada, Public Works Director, Town of Trumbull.
Andrea?
Hi everyone, City Planner at Bridgeport.
Hannah?
Hi everyone, good morning. Hannah Reichley, Regional Planner at MetroCOG.
Meg?
Good morning, Meg Hafner with the Kennedy Collective. I'm the Southwest Connecticut Regional Mobility Manager.
And Tatiana?
Tatiana Solovey, Assistant Town Engineer with Trumbull.
Okay, and did I miss anybody? Okay, great. So our first presentation is going to be with Greg Palmer and Joe Lombardi with the Connecticut Traffic Operations Division. And I will bring up your presentation and just tell me when you'd like me to advance it.
Sure. Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.
Hold on. Where did I? Here we go.
Everyone can see that, right?
Can everybody see it?
Yeah.
Awesome, thank you. All right, so my name's Greg Palmer, again, DOT Traffic Engineering, specifically in the Traffic Operations Unit. And this is my first meeting, but I'll be meeting with all the COGs in the next few months to kind of reintroduce our Traffic Operations Unit. I know for the past 7 years or so, 2019, traffic engineering went through a reorganization. We came out with some mailboxes that we asked a lot of our incoming requests to go through, which has kind of led to a bit more of a less personal type of relationship between the municipalities and traffic operations. So we're trying to fix that. And I know everyone's not in the room, but I just kind of wanted to kind of go over who a point of contact would be for the local traffic authorities or high selected officials when they do need to follow up on a traffic operations item. And so this is what this presentation is about. And so again, traffic engineering is made up of 4 units. We have a project design unit, which really supports our major highway and bridge type projects. So they're our support unit for those highway and bridge projects. They also do their own projects for interstate signing for like the overhead sign structures and such. Top right, traffic signals unit. They have our asset management group that establishes projects for upgrades to components of signals, as well as our projects unit, which is confusing in a traffic signals unit with another project unit. But they do the district various projects, which are the full upgrades or pedestrian upgrades as signals. And then in the bottom right is our traffic safety unit, which, they have our strategic highway safety plan. They implement the highway safety improvement program projects, and they're more of the proactive response to getting ahead of things. Whereas traffic operations, the unit that I oversee, is a reactive unit. We are here, the primary purpose of our unit is to do municipal inquiries on behalf for state highways on behalf of local traffic authorities. And we also have a few other responsibilities that I'll get into. But anyway, so I represent the traffic operations unit. And if you could go one more slide, just to kind of, so again, highlighting that as us. So our responsibilities, I mentioned, we perform traffic investigations on state controlled highways and intersections when requested by municipal local traffic authorities. So unless there's something that we know is imminent that we'll try to get ahead of, we're more often waiting for that job to be created. We also provide support to other DOT groups like the Office of the State Traffic Administration for major traffic generator and AD reviews, as well as municipal signal revisions for signals that are on state highways. We also provide technical support to the Office of Maintenance for encroachment permits. And we also support maintenance on their resurfacing program yearly. Legislative requests that are not associated with projects come to us for review, particularly when they're related to signals, signs, or pavement markings. We get a bunch of public inquiries that maybe didn't start with the LTA that we then defer to the towns. So you probably see a lot of those where the DOT mailbox is forwarding those when citizens reach out directly. And we also support our Policy and Planning Bureau for corridor studies, road safety audits, and different kinds of grant applications as technical support. And occasionally we can recommend projects for METC plans. So we have a lot of responsibilities, but you know, there's a lot on our plate and we're always trying to figure out where the hottest fire is. And that's how we kind of, you know, try to prioritize our work. Next slide, please. This is our coverage area map for the state, separated by our transportation engineer threes, which are senior engineers. Joe's with me here today. He covers the whole section in the bottom left that is in green on here, which includes MetroCOG. So you'll see on the top left that's the mailbox that we utilize. We request that local traffic authorities send in requests to that mailbox. If you ever do that and you do not get an acknowledgement within a couple business days, Joe's your guy. He's the guy to reach out to, because it's going to end up with him most likely, or at least it's going to be his responsibility to get you to the right place. If you ever aren't sure and you want to submit something, Joe's your guy. Pick up the phone and call him, send him an email, say, hey, I'd like to talk about a certain subject. You know, I just wanted to make sure that, you know, people knew who at the DOT in our unit are, you know, here to serve you guys and help you with the challenges you face. So again, these are our senior engineers that cover different portions of the state. They have working level engineers that report to them. Those working level engineers, so Joe has 2 direct reports, but he can utilize any of the 12 working level employees that respond to these people depending on workloads. So we have 12 working level staff that support our TD3s. Next slide, thank you. And then just to kind of hammer it home, you know, so MetroCOG, you know, I believe it's the 6 municipalities listed there. You know, Joe covers all of these towns, which makes this meeting easy. Some of my other ones, I have like 3 people with me. And again, he's the guy. This slide here has his contact information. It has my contact information in the top right, and the person not with us today is our new supervisor and engineer, Laz Pittman. He's replaced Ethan Doniker, if you've worked with him before. Laz has familiarity with this job. He worked in traffic operations for almost 10 years previously. So we're glad to have him back. So, you know, if you ever need to follow up on something or are looking to escalate from, you know, an acknowledgement from a working level employee for us, please start with Joe or Laz or myself. You know, part of this is we're trying to attempt to minimize things going legislative or directly to the commissioner. So we're just trying to give our staff a chance to get to things before they get too escalated. And why Laz isn't really here with us today is, so, you know, Joe specifically covers these towns. No matter the type of traffic job, Joe has it for us. Laz, though, covers this area for encroachment permits and certain signal timing or phasing requests. He actually covers the state for certain subject matter expert topics. So it's more not as clear, I guess, at that level. So I just wanted to, you know, Joe really is the first line of defense, but if you guys need to escalate it, you're welcome to call me or email me as well. So this is just some general requests by local traffic authorities. You know, our group reviews different kinds of like intersection reviews, whether that's a study for a new traffic signal that doesn't exist. Maybe it's an existing signal that you really want a left turn, advanced arrow phase, upgrades to existing pedestrian signal facilities that are outdated, timing changes, signs and pavement markings, and then other reviews that are not related to intersections or signalized intersections at least. You know, signs and markings for either horizontal or vertical curvature, marked crosswalks. And I just wanted to say that other reviews that we used to handle no through trucks, Those are now handled by the Office of the State Traffic Administration. And posted speed limits have always been handled by the Office of the State Traffic Administration. So their mailbox is where you should go for those, but if it gets to us, we'll probably respond to you and include that mailbox. It's kind of our how we do that. So we'll be the middleman on those when it comes up, but I just figured I'd throw that in there because they're typical for us. Yeah, no, you're fine. That's right. And then this is just a quick thing, like, when we do get a signal timing request or a phasing request, we're usually gonna either find counts or get counts and do it. This is an in-depth location that needed 4 or 5. So it has like 10 different locations. This is likely under a corridor study more so than versus through our office being developing unit. But we will get counts, we'll go through a capacity analysis, use sync-row. We're looking at before and after situations and trying to find what makes sense. It's just an example of one of the types of tasks we would do. Next slide's fine. Everything that we review, we are making sure that it's in conformance with the manual on uniform traffic control devices. This is the traffic engineer's main Bible, as I like to say. It's for signals, signs, pavement markings. The things that we do for the state need to be in conformance with this. So I just wanted to kind of point that aspect out. There are other manuals we use, but that's our predominant one. And other responsibilities I mentioned that we have that are not necessarily requests directly from the towns, but major traffic generators in OSTA, we're a support for technical traffic review. We determine if proposed off-site roadway improvements are adequate to mitigate their site-generated traffic. And then encroachment permits or any work proposed within the state highway right-of-way where the state is not the party doing the work. So that could be a town, that could be a private developer. And, our district maintenance is the lead on these and we support them more often than when a signal's involved. So the district could handle some of these on their own, but they will get us involved when they need us to, or when they need us to. Next slide, please.
Not sure if there's another one. Oh,
There we go. And I also, so one of the other things we do is maintenance resurfacing program review. So every year, there's sections of roadway in each district that maintenance is going to resurface through this program, the MRP. It used to be called the VIP, vendor in place. So we prepare pavement marking plans for the district for almost all of these sections where there are changes. And we're automatically going to 11-foot lanes, wider shoulders, 10-foot left turn lanes and such. And then, the contractors utilize these plans to repaint the roadway. We're always looking for opportunities to implement road diets, buffered shoulders under these. Like I think we're trying to do 4 this year, which was 1 2 years ago, and 0 last year for road diets. Now 4 this year. We're hopeful that it moves forward. Anyways, so these are another task that we have. We spend a lot of time working on these. And just to let people know that curb ramps are installed after a VIP. My understanding is they try to do it about a year afterwards, but some districts are a little behind, so are more like 2 years afterwards. And then excuse me, just to give a quick sample, a quick plug for road diets, just some information, and we can share this presentation if people want to skim through it and such afterwards. But just the benefits of road diets, we don't just spend. This is one of the things we look into, and then samples of buffered shoulders on the next slide. So not quite bike lanes, because there's some implications of making these automatically the bike lanes. But we're looking to eat up that space, have that 11-foot lane, eat up the shoulder while still providing about a 5-foot space for vulnerable roadway users over there. And then last thing is a plug for the quick build directive. There haven't been a lot of them in the state just yet, though this came out in summer 2024. This program establishes the framework for municipalities to pursue demonstration style projects on state highways. They are temporary, only allowed between May 1st and the end of October, I believe. We're trying to. This was put together as like a way to test something out. So the example here is in Bridgeport. You can see that bump outs were created with these flexible post delineators and markings. There were some issues with parking occurring all the way to the intersection, makes visibility to pedestrians difficult. So this was a temporary portion that was installed. And I think the idea is if it works out, then a future project or, a streetscape by the city could, if it's successful, could make it permanent with curbing and those bump outs. So that's one of the examples of what's there. And, I'm not sure how many municipalities are aware of it yet or what. So we just wanted to get the word out on those and, demonstration projects. I'm sure there are some applicable grants that could be pursued. And that's really what I have. I wanted to explain what we do, who we are, and, we're here to do reviews for you and give you some contact information.
Thank you. That's great. I'm sure we'll get this presentation out. You'll send me a
Yeah,
copy.
I'll send it to
Great.
you.
But does anybody have any questions? Sarah?
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation. It was really informative. Oh, is there an echo? Or is that just me?
Oh,
Might just be you as
it's
Okay.
just you, and there's something that we can do to stop it? Did this help, Sarah?
Let me talk and see. Yes, thank you. I think it's better. So my question is, first, I love the bump outs on Fairfield Avenue in Bridgeport. I'm over there all the time and definitely miss them this winter. They make a huge difference. But in terms of the buffers, the painted buffers on the state routes, I don't know if you all follow Mr. Barricade on LinkedIn. He's fabulous. If you don't, he's out in California. But he was just talking about, I know they're not bike lanes. It's just a painted buffered shoulder right now. But my question is like, is the goal ultimately to phase this to make them protected bike lanes? Like he just had a video about how they started with a buffered shoulder and then they put in flex posts and then they put in concrete delineators and this is over like many years, and then the next phase is going to be turning those concrete delineators into landscaped buffers, which is just like gorgeous and reduces heat island effects and really cool. So I'll stop talking. I just was wondering if that is the ultimate goal of something.
So I'll at least lay out the information or my opinion of it, because I'm not sure there's a grand master plan. We're looking to narrow lane widths and provide as wide as shoulders as possible. And we used to have an 8-foot maximum width limit, because once you get over 8 feet, people start to drive it as multiple lanes. So what you could have is if you had a 20-foot portion of roadway, well, instead of 11 and 9, 11-foot lane and a 9-foot shoulder, you would do a 12-foot lane and an 8-foot shoulder. But with the buffer area, you can still keep it an 11-foot lane and do a buffer while providing a 5-foot shoulder. And you still keep the narrow lane while providing a wider area for vulnerable road users. And as of right now, we're only pursuing the buffered shoulders under the maintenance resurfacing program. That's at least the program I can speak to for what we put together. And why we haven't gone to potentially bike lanes yet, which that's not to say we never would, but the level of coordination for that would definitely increase in that. My understanding is if it's a bike lane, well, now you can't park there anymore. So now you're implementing these parking restrictions that weren't there beforehand. So the level of town coordination or coordination with the municipalities is gonna increase. And then to also with that is, where you have a buffered shoulder and no sidewalk. Again, my limited understanding of it is that a bike lane can't be used legally by pedestrians, whereas a buffered shoulder could be used by bikes or pedestrians. So those are kind of I'll call them the scapegoats that I have right now for it, and why we haven't taken that step further. This is our second year with the buffered shoulder, so we're still kind of learning as we go. I know our District 2 maintenance folks weren't too happy with us with one of the first buffered shoulders we did in Montville. That looked a little silly, so we've fixed that. And we're kind of learning as we get more experience with them. But I definitely wouldn't rule out the potential for bike lanes later on, as far as, that buffered area getting flexible post delineators in the future that then could lead to like a physical separation. I think that's less likely on some of these instances, mostly for plowing reasons, I would guess. But I don't want to speculate too much on that. I think the bike lanes being painted is one aspect of it, and then future ownership and maintenance of them, I think will be another question with our maintenance. But I wouldn't rule out that aspect though.
Thank you so much. And I mean, all progress is good progress, and I really appreciate all these changes. And I just want to say also, like, where there's enough space, parking protected bike lanes would be amazing. They're my favorite kind. So I know not all of our roads have that kind of width, but some do. So yeah, that would be really cool someday. Thanks.
Is that parking between the travel lane and a bike lane, or is that a bike lane between the travel lane and a parking area?
So
Is
it would be sidewalk, bike lane, parking, but you have to have enough room for the driver to open the door.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, I do know, under one of our recent, I forget what town it was in, but under this year's maintenance resurfacing program, we did have a location where we have existing on-street parking, and we ended up doing, I believe, like a 2-foot buffer between the parking and then the shoulder. It was a little weird for us because we were trying to give we didn't want the car door issue with bike lanes on that situation, or with the buffered shoulder, I'll call it. So I was just curious. So you were talking about the parking between the bike lane, which that does sound nice.
Yeah, it's my
Thank you
favorite
for
kind of on-street parking. If we have to have on-street parking, let's have it protecting people biking.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you.
And any additional questions for Greg?
I'd like to ask about the quick build directive. We have an FS4A grant that we were recently awarded. It's for supplemental planning and demonstration projects. We're focused on state routes within our region. We obviously know that through this directive, those are the types of demonstration projects that we'll be able to do. What level of design? I know we're going to need to go through the encroachment permit process, but what level of design is needed for these temporary? I mean, we're only using things like bollards and paint and things like that. So like, does it have to go through like a full design process? Or is it more or less if it aligns with what's in the directive?
So
are they kind of like as of right?
And so we've had very limited experience with it so far. It's kind of why I put it in there. Yeah, I kind of want to encourage it to be utilized more. For the ones that I have seen, for the like the use of a flexible post delineators for creating a bump out, since the state highway would be involved, just making sure that the design vehicle could still make that maneuver, because you're going to eat up some of that radius, but we still have those types of vehicles utilizing it now. It must work in some situations. I don't know if like the one that we had, if that was really not, but if the one that we had was a one-way road potentially, so it didn't really matter as much. Yeah. But we would still need to, accommodate those types of vehicle maneuvers. Just indicating what kinds of materials it is. We do need some level of design to show where are they, how many, what spacing. But yeah, the design vehicle is the first one that comes into mind. And I think clearly indicating the parking, like that would go along with the parking impacts. Yeah. But as far as the bollards go, that's really what jumps out to me. We saw another quick build for use of speed reduction markings temporarily on a state roadway, and just like what speed criteria was utilized from beforehand, because part of the process in that directive kind of spells out, these are kind of like an experimentation process. Like, was it successful? What were the speeds beforehand? What were they afterwards? So that's really going to be the information that, the municipalities or the regions, I guess, would be responsible for collecting. And then, we're going to assess it afterwards once provided, and, kind of see if it's really worth a full-time use at some point. So that's about the best I had. Like, I don't think you need full scale like survey for everything.
Yeah, we were just wondering like how far we have to go with it. That's always been our question, like, how, because we've never done it before, and I know it hasn't really been done that much at the state level either, so we're just trying to figure it all out. But yeah, we totally get it. That makes sense.
And if you are putting these together, or a municipality is, and there is a specific question about like, hey, I know in that meeting you talked about design vehicles, but what about this? We think you guys may want to see more about, we don't want to do it if we don't need to.
Yeah.
Just call me. Like, I'm willing to talk about those things, because I don't want you guys to put in more effort. I know going through the permit process isn't exactly the easiest thing, and it's time consuming, and this is not meant to take forever. This is meant to be, they actually created a quick build team for getting together and trying to review these quickly so they can get them in the field afterwards.
Yeah.
So I'm part of that group. So again, I think we've seen two.
Yeah.
2 years.
We don't, I don't want to get to a place, and I've always thought we're gonna have to lean on DOT as we go through this process, because it's fairly new, for obviously DOT and for us. But just want to make sure that we don't go too far with it, but we also give the information that you're gonna need to make an accurate decision, so.
Very fair. I'd say if you ever think you may need more, but don't want to put in the effort, send an email, give a call, something like that would be great.
Great, thanks.
And perhaps if we use the same approach as what was used on 130 in Bridgeport too.
Definitely.
I just have a quick question, Bill Hurley from Town of Fairfield. If we, right now, there's a lot of pedestrian crossings across Route 1. But if we wanted to do side streets or make instead of 1 crosswalk, say 4 crosswalks, with the reorganization, which division would we contact?
So you'd be looking to either request the state study that, or you'd be proposing a change under encroachment permit? Is it either of those situations or one of them?
Probably look at the state first, but it could eventually become the second idea that you had there.
Yeah, so that would be our unit in traffic operations. If there's no state project currently tied to it, we would be the starting point for studying it. And for like implementing a new marked crosswalk, we're mostly usually concerned about sight distance along the uncontrolled approaches. That's our main thing for those. And then the next question becomes curb ramps associated with those crossings. Like we can't paint a crosswalk if there are no existing curb ramps. But our typical response is to partner with municipalities. If they build the ramps, we would do the rest of it and such.
All right, thank you.
No worries.
Okay, any more questions? Okay, I will give you your USB back.
And I will, you're welcome to copy and paste it on your desktop if
Yeah,
you want.
if everybody can just bear with me for a minute so that I can
Oh, yeah.
distribute this. No problem. And I'll give this back to you. Oh, sorry, everybody.
You can just cancel it if you want. I can choose fine.
Okay, I'm just gonna pull this out. I was trying to be elegant.
Yeah, no.
Um,
Guys so much. There's nothing more for us. I think we're gonna head out if that's okay.
understood. I'm sure some of the attendees will be reaching out to you
Yeah,
though, and I'll
that's
make
the
sure
whole
that I
point.
send your, yep. Okay,
Thank you very much. Very
yeah,
informative.
thank you. So next item is, actually, let me check the agenda real quick. Yep, next item is a Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Mark Hoover and I will be going over this. Okay, let's see. Okay, so, I think a lot of the people on this call are probably familiar with the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. Projects included in this are, bring them to eligibility for federal transportation funds. I guess just going back really quickly, as the, designated recipient of federal transportation planning funds, for the region, the Greater Bridgeport Valley Metropolitan Planning Organization is required to have a metropolitan transportation plan that's updated every 4 years. The last plan was approved in 2023. There needs to be a finalized plan that's been approved and everything for 2027. And the planning period would be 2027 for 2055. Some of the other requirements, there's a lot of them, but I tried to shorten this as much as possible for just out of respect for everybody's time. But it must be fiscally constrained and all projects must help the state meet their air quality goals. So the first step in this really is the and there's going to be a lot of elements required to this. There's going to be outreach, development of the content, looking at goals, all of that. But the first thing that MetroCOG really needs to do is work with our municipalities on identifying projects for submission to Connecticut DOT. That's because the air quality modeling process takes some time. It's a months long process. So we have to have everything submitted to DOT by July 1st. A lot of the municipal staff on this call will have received a list of the 2023 projects to get your feedback on for inclusion or not. It would have come from Pat, Matt, myself, or Nick Dostal. But we asked for you to review those projects, and there were a number of projects that we felt we needed additional information on. So just a quick summary: yellow, we needed updated with specific locations. Red, they were very vague. And then new projects, feel free to add new projects. But because there is, a significant amount of modeling required and everything on DOT's part, any projects that we submit to DOT, they're going to have to go, they're going to have to be detailed probably significantly more. And Mark is going to discuss that component. But this is just the project submission process that you'll have seen in your email. So on Friday, May 29th, please have a completed spreadsheet back to us. Once we in advance, we're gonna set up meetings for the week of June 1st to answer questions, review projects, review the form I've mentioned, and just for general discussion. On this Wednesday, June 17th, we would like all projects to be submitted via this input form. What we have, or what we're going to be providing, everyone an example with today, is a form that was created by DOT, but we're using our version, so we can provide DOT with that feed later on. If they are not submitted via this form, they will not advance to the 2027 MTP. And again, we want to have these meetings with each town to ensure that we're all on the same page and we provide a good explanation. Just a footnote with transit projects, you'll have seen that fiscal constraint requirement early on. As it stands right now, DOT's existing selection of rail and bus projects across the state for inclusion in the MTP, it goes far beyond, or it's significantly over programmed. So there's going to be very little room for locally selected transit projects. That being said, we can put them in as illustrative projects or, projects beyond that 2055 time horizon. And then just one other footnote, and I know this has lots of moving pieces. We already have these major highway projects included as part of the plan. So I know, a lot of our municipalities, especially Fairfield and Bridgeport, have been, working a lot on these planning studies, and some of the recommendations are already included as part in the financial portion of the plan. So don't feel like you need to include those. So you'll see, for Fairfield, the Route 130 traffic circle, Oxford Monroe, Stevenson Dam Bridge, we've got the Fairfield Avenue corridor study and East End Street study in Bridgeport. So, so we're good there. And then, you know, getting back to the transit projects, you'll see some of these listed and, you know, you can clearly see why, it's overprogrammed. Some of these rail projects are, you know, quite expensive. Okay, Mark, would you like to take on the form?
Sure. So, like Megan said, DOT is requesting more information for this MTP than we submitted previously in 2023. So they provided this form through Survey 123 and ArcGIS Online. What we've done is we've taken DOT's form and copied it into our own ArcGIS environment, with the idea being once the municipalities submit it, we will receive it first, and then we can review it and then send it up to DOT if we have all the information in there. Instead of sending this form out to everybody and saying, please enter all of your projects, we first sent out the spreadsheet, just kind of a summary of what was included, just to give you kind of an overview and update it with some basic information before we get too in-depth into all of these different fields. So like Megan said, if you could go through those spreadsheets and get back any new projects or revise the old projects by next Friday, then we can set up meetings on the week of June 1st to kind of sit down with you, go through those projects, and then kind of go through this form in more detail. So the form has a lot of different dependencies on there. You know, just basic information on the first couple of pages, project title, project number. If there's an existing project associated with it, you can select that, and some more project information on that existing project will pop up. There's information on, you know, what MPO you're part of, what municipality is in there, and then, you know, what route, trail, or rail line is the project occurring on. Next slide. As you go through the form, there is a question on, can you provide more detail on the highway project? There is an option to add an attachment to kind of fulfill the requirements for all the information. What we're recommending everyone do is select the first option, just yes, and you continue through the form. That way you're forced to kind of manually put in all the information, and that way we ensure that whatever information you input, we have all the information for DOT. So when you click yes, the details will pop up depending on what kind of project you selected. So here's kind of the highway details. In here we have the project category, and when you select a category, some additional fields will pop up, which we'll get into the next slide. But the two important things to note here are the project limits. So this is kind of that more detailed description about the location that we need. So in some of the previous MTP, there were some projects in there like intersection improvements in various locations around town. And what we need is actually those specific intersections, or if there is a segment of roadway, we need it from, you know, one intersection to the other side, not just kind of a general description of the location. And then there's also some more information on if there is added capacity and if there will be lanes added in either direction.
Next one.
Yeah. So when you select kind of the project category, these different project types will also pop up. So if you have a roadway safety category, the roadway safety project types fields will pop up. And then there's a bunch of different types that you can select from, and you can select from more than one. So we just kind of select all that apply as you go through the project. At the end of the survey, there is a opportunity to attach any other additional information you have. So like I said, instead of including it in that first button, you can kind of enter the information and then add any attachments to kind of provide supplemental information on the projects. There's also a funding type and then the project cost. So we need this implemented. You can see on the form itself, there are kind of red asterisks under required fields. So any required field in there, you have to fill it out before you can submit it, obviously. And then the last thing to note here is what year will the project be completed? This is, you know, for that air quality monitoring and also for the fiscally constrained portion of the plan. So that is kind of the form. This is kind of just looking at some of the screenshots. Like I said, there's 5 pages in there. Depending on what you select, different options pop up. So you can't really go through it all at once. But the idea is to kind of give you an overview now, and then when we set up those meetings the week of June 1st, we can kind of go in depth and review your individual projects.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions regarding this? Well, we're gonna start reaching out to set up meetings, probably this week or next week. But, you know, we wanted to, you know, we emailed, you know, a lot of municipal staff, but we wanted to ensure that, you know, this meeting could be a time to answer any questions as well that people may have.
Yeah, I have a couple. Bill Hurley from engineering. I did about half of the chart. So I just want to, so you do the
Okay.
chart first and then you have to do the form, or we do the chart, send it to you, and then we go over the form together? Can you explain that again?
So we sent you the spreadsheet.
Right.
Take a look at the spreadsheet. You know, figure out what you still want to include. And then we'll meet with you. We'll go through the form. Maybe we'll, you know, enter a few projects just as an example, get you comfortable with it. And then after that, you know, you would enter the rest of your projects in the form. Mark, Pat. anything else?
Yeah, basically the first step is just a preliminary kind of like screening. What was in the last MTP, what the town wants to keep on, what they want to, what's new that needs to be added, and then obviously updates to the descriptions and locations. The previous MTP, a lot of those projects didn't have that detailed information.
Yeah.
We got word from DOT that these need to be much more descriptive this time around, which is what prompted us to do kind of this initial pass. And then obviously we'll meet with you and discuss the form that includes all those details moving forward. So the first phase is just that initial screening, looking at that spreadsheet and completing that. And then we can walk you through the form process once we meet with you in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, because offhand, we probably have about 15. And like you said, we had said downtown signals or something like that. Now we have to specify each intersection. For 20, this is going to be for 2027. So what timeline are these projects? Like if we, and the importance of putting the projects on the chart.
What do you mean?
Well, are these projects that we expect to do in the next like 5 or 10 years, or is this a 20-year lookout, or what are these exactly for? Timeline.
So it's 2027 to 2055. And that's the
The horizon year.
yeah, that's the
that's
horizon
what I
year.
thought. That's what I thought. So you answered my
Yeah.
question. All right. I just
Okay.
wanted to make sure it wasn't like for the next like 2 or 3 years, because we have some,
The
and
MTP
then-
is formerly the long range transportation plan. So
Right.
it's looking at that kind of longer range timeline.
It's like a plan of conservation and development for transportation.
right. That's how I took it. And we've done these before. And like you said, the 2023 one, I just wanted to make sure. So and then the importance of putting these on, and sometimes when you apply for grants, they say, is this on the long range transportation plan? And then you can answer yes. That's the importance of these.
Yes.
Right? Yep. Okay, good.
Yep.
You've answered my questions. Thank you.
And remember, you know, it's not like it's set in stone until 2055. It's set in stone until 4 years after 2027, which is 2031.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And then we'll have to do the update and obviously, yeah, so.
All
Any
right,
more
thank you.
questions? Okay. If there's no more questions, I will try to go through all of this really quickly. I don't really have lots of updates. I just keep it here, in case anybody has any questions. But are there any, questions, concerns, issues with lots of right now? Okay, Stephanie, would you like to, go through the MS4 update?
Yeah, so Deep is releasing a new MS4 permit within the next couple of months. The COGs are working together to, once the new permit is out, we'll conduct an in-depth review and compile a summary document that highlights the changes between the old permit and this permit. And it will also highlight services that the COGs are able to provide for municipalities. The working group, we're also in discussions with Yukon Clear to update and revive the NEMO MS4 site, which will provide educational materials for municipal staff. And at MetroCOG, we reached out to Deep to review the desktop compliance evaluations for our towns. So we received those for Easton, Fairfield, Monroe, and Trumbull. And this is just so we can see where all the towns are at, see how we can best assist, inform which services are most valuable to our municipalities. And I don't know if anyone from Stratford is on, but if there's contact there who can send us their compliance evaluation form, Deep was not able to locate theirs. So if someone is able to send that to us, that would be helpful. And that's it for MS4, if anyone has any questions.
Any questions for Stephanie? Okay, Pat?
Yeah, so MetroCOG's administering two federal grants related to transportation. One is the Safe Streets and Roads for All planning and demonstration grant for the region. As I mentioned kind of earlier in my question to Greg Palmer at DOT, we have funding for supplemental planning, design, and demonstration projects on state routes within the region. We are currently under contract negotiation with Stantec, who is our selected consultant engineer for the project. So we're going through those negotiations now. Hopefully, get them under contract within the next couple of weeks, and then we'll begin the planning process. Obviously, work with all of you towns on the call to determine kind of next steps. But the idea is to eventually get to implementing quick build measures on the most problematic areas on the state highways within our region. So yeah, just working through that, and we'll be in touch on that. And then our Neighborhood Equity and Access Grant is a planning grant for the Seaview Avenue, Connecticut Avenue, Stratford Avenue, and exit 29 I-95 intersection in the east end of Bridgeport. We are currently just working on existing conditions and the traffic operations analysis on that. Those two deliverables should be sent to us in the coming weeks. We had our second technical advisory committee meeting yesterday afternoon at the city of Bridgeport. That was well attended by city staff, DOT staff, and other stakeholders. We'll be continuing some community outreach in the East End neighborhood. Went to the East End NRC meeting last evening, and we'll have a community charrette in early June. So that's progressing well, and the ultimate goal of that project is to come with a preferred alternative for some safety improvements and design alternatives for that intersection. So that's pretty much it.
Okay, next item is just a
Wait,
reminder.
excuse me, Megan. I do have a question.
Okay.
We just want to confirm that you said you're in negotiation with Stantec.
Yes.
Because we have our own safety action plan.
Yep.
And we had narrowed it down to like from 40 down to like 7 or 8 intersections. And 2 of the intersections that we took off because we're assuming that MetroCOG is doing them is Post Road in Umpqua and Post Road and North and South Pine Creek. Can you confirm that you're doing that? Otherwise, we will have our consultants look at them. We were assuming, though, that's part of your safety action plan.
Post Road in Umpqua and Post Road in Pine Creek, you said?
Yes. Yep.
Let me just confirm. We have our list of 15 intersections that were on our high injury network and our crash hotspot location. So let me just confirm with that, and I'll get back to you if that works.
Okay. If you can some point today, that would be great. All right. Thank you so much.
Yep.
Okay, any other questions for Pat on this? Okay, just a reminder, the active transportation microgrant program, second quarter funding applications are due to MetroCOG on June 23rd. Yesterday was a very good virtual open house on Connecticut DOT's active transportation plan. If anybody would have liked to attend it but couldn't, please visit their portal for it, which is in this agenda. Just a heads up, we completed a freight profile for the region that is on our website. It's at it's in the transportation planning section if anybody is interested in freight movements. Basically it's mostly just Fairfield County and New Haven County data, but if anybody is interested, please take a look at our website. And Hannah, would you like to give an update on the regional POCD?
Sure, no problem. So in terms of updates for the POCD, MetroCOG has been working through the content of everything. We've met with our focus groups to kind of narrow down our goals, objectives, and strategies. In the coming weeks, we're going to be sending around the draft content for the transportation section, and we're aiming to host a final focus group in early June. So we will keep folks apprised. Once we do have that meeting, we'll ask for comments as well, and we'll have an additional week for that. And we're hoping to wrap up the POCD in early fall in terms of our 65-day review and our public meetings.
Wonderful. Thank you, Hannah. Stephanie, would you like to talk about CPRG?
So the draft of the comprehensive climate action plan is done and that's posted to the website. The website is swctclimate.com. And we're essentially done. We're just finalizing the municipal playbooks, and they're designed to distill the CCAP into like the most important components and guide plan of action for staff to implement the recommended climate solutions. And these are organized by sector, so one being transportation. And we're going to finalize those this week and then submit the CCAP to EPA before the June 1st deadline.
Wonderful. Thank you, Stephanie. Any questions regarding any of these items? Okay, only other item is and I'll include this with my follow-up email. USDOT announced their bridge investment program. Planning grant applications are due June 15th and project grant applications are due June 29th. And I guess 2025 applications needed to be resubmitted through the program. And there's some due dates that are, prior to those June dates for those applications. So if anybody had submitted 2025 applications or wants to submit applications for 2026, you'll see a link to the NOFO in my follow-up email. Then any questions on the bridge investment program? I think it's very competitive. A lot of the bridges, or I think the funding is for pretty high cost stuff. So just, review the NOFO, before you submit anything or, take too much time on an application. And the next meeting for the TTEC is July 22nd. So we are on schedule to end, but if anybody has any questions, we can stay on longer. If not, enjoy the day.
Hey,
And
hey, hey, Pat, I have a quick question for you. Can I give you a call after this?
Yeah, that works.
All right, thanks.
Yep.
Okay. Take care, everybody, and I'm sure you will all be hearing from us soon.
Thanks, Megan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.